Bitcoin is struggling to break through resistance, but if a confirmed break does happen, can we expect a Santa rally? Let's find out. Hi, I'm Paul with ArcisFX with your Bitcoin update for the week. Stick around until the end for this week's summary of key levels to watch to inform your trading. But first up, is Santa going to gift us a rally this Christmas? As always in crypto, it's conditional, but what are those conditions? The good news is that last week's inflation data was slightly more bullish than expected at 2.7%, give or take, which lays the groundwork for a crypto recovery early next year. But we're also facing low volume trading at present thanks to the festive season slowdown. But let's see if we can identify the likelihood of a rally as we approach the year's end. First up, this is Bitcoin 1 hour chart. Now, in our private group, these were two lines in the sand I drew just yesterday to see whether we had bullish continuation or whether the price action started to move back down again. Now, we had a breakout above 89k, the 3-day 200 MA and the 4-hour 200 MA, which is exactly what we wanted the price action to do. But when we did break out, we ran straight into this diagonal resistance line here, which essentially stopped the price action in its tracks. And now, unfortunately, we haven't been able to confirm the SR flip, the move from resistance to support, and we've now lost the 3-day 200 MA, the 4-hour 200 MA, and 89k, and we are now heading lower. In order for us to have a little bit of a Santa rally, we need, of course, to hold above these moving averages and 89k, which is significant on multiple timeframes, and also get above this diagonal resistance level. And then we have a fair shot at this range, which is essentially 94 to 96k. So that's what we need to see. And if we did see that, that would properly confirm a move from this markdown phase we've been in for the last month or so into a mark-up phase, which is essentially what will give us the rally. And you can see on this, the 4-hour chart, what Bitcoin essentially has to do. It has to get above these moving averages like this, confirm the flip, and then have a crack at resistance, and then make our way up essentially to this resistance zone where you can see there's a lot of sellers. That's what we want to see. If we don't see anything like that, there's no chance of any upside continuation from here. And we could just see some ranging price action over the next couple of weeks. So that's what we need to see. That's what you need to see if you want an upside continuation. But there's more at play here. So let's zoom out. This is Bitcoin daily with some time-based fibs. Now we've got this diagonal resistance line at the moment with the price action is tussling with, and the point of control just overhead at around 97k. Now, the important thing to recognize on this chart is that every time we reach one of these time-based fibs, this is essentially -1, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, okay? Now, every time we tend to reach these points, these time-based fibs, this was 19th of January, we see we had a pivot from an uptrend to a downtrend, and then again on 7th of July 2025, once we reached this fib date, we then broke through resistance and continued higher. And now here we are again. We're potentially at the bottom of this recent markdown. Now, what can happen here? The obvious thing would be the pivot from a downtrend to an uptrend, but also given the fact that the 3-day 200 MA has previously been well clear of the price action, we could see also a move from this brief consolidation we've had since the end of November to a continued markdown phase like this. So we have to be prepared for that. But what we do know is that based on these time-based fibs, we are at a key pivot point for the price action, which could see some sort of move. And if we switch to now our second time-based fib chart, again, this is the daily, we can have a closer inspection of what we can sort of expect. So the key thing, if we look actually at the July pivot this year, this was essentially the breakout of a bull flag. And then on the 7th of July, this fib pivot point, we then broke out and then continued upwards. Now, unfortunately, we are in a bear flag now. So the premise would be that, the bias was bullish because we were in a bull flag for the last pivot point, but now the bias is bearish because we're in a bear flag. And therefore, you might expect a continuation down at this pivot point, which is essentially today, Tuesday, the 23rd of December. So we do have a bearish bias here, which could see a move all the way back down to 67 or so K, which is, as you can see, the previous all-time highs from earlier in the year and the previous bull run. So that is significant support. So that is a possibility, but that doesn't mean that we can't pivot upwards from here and invalidate this bear flag. But we have to acknowledge that there is a bearish bias, just like here in the previous pivot point when we had a break upwards, there was a bullish one. So maybe a bit of a splash of cold water for the potential for a Santa rally. That is essentially the state of things at the moment. So what do we need to see from Bitcoin then to try and avoid any further downside? As it looks like potentially that's what the pivot could be over the next few days and weeks.
Hi there, I'm James. I'm the founder of ArcisFX. I'd like to personally invite you to join our 24/7 trading group. This is built for traders who want an edge. Inside, you'll get access to live calls on Forex, commodities, crypto, energies, and metals, along with exclusive daily analysis designed to unlock your trading potential. And this in both traditional and now in digital markets. I'm talking Bitcoin, crypto, altcoins, and tethered currencies. You'll gain early access to insider news, real-time updates, real-time support, and premium educational content. If you want to sharpen your skills and boost your success rate, then join me and Paul in this community. This is a fast-growing community of traders who are now writing their own success stories. So don't wait. Join up now. Your edge starts right here.
So this is Bitcoin 4-hour chart, and essentially what Bitcoin needs to do to invalidate this premise, and I'll just draw the bear flag, on here very loosely so you can see it. That's really janky. It's not quite lined up properly, so apologies for that, but that's essentially, there's the flag, and you can see the price action is stuck in this little pocket. This is a pretty good situation for the bulls because it means that all the sellers are essentially lined up, so it should be able to take them out in one shot if it can get above here, but poking its head above the parapet is going to be insufficient. So we need a strong move from here above 89k, well into this range. You can see here this X is marked where the previous swing high was, which is essentially represented by overhead resistance at the moment between 94 and 96k. And therefore, if the price action can break out of this pocket above 94k, then we can look to come in on the flip side of these moving averages and 89k, something Bitcoin has failed to do over the last couple of days. Then people will look to come in for a long entry here, following a higher high and so forth. We confirm the SR flip of these key moving averages and 89k, and then we move up from here to at least 108, 110k, which is the next serious battle with sellers the bulls will have to face. That is essentially what a Santa rally could look like, which is essentially a move from where we are now to anything above 94, 96k. Then we've got something bullish to trade. That's ideally what we need to see. But if we can't see that, then what we're going to have from Bitcoin, unfortunately, is we're going to see it drift downwards, essentially back into this range, which is supported by 81 to 82k, and probably will have some ranging price action as we head into the new year. So those are the two different scenarios with a slight bearish slant, but it doesn't mean Bitcoin can't give us what we want. But we're not going to enter positions based on the hope of that. You don't get the sledge, the toboggan out of the shed in the hopes of a white Christmas. You wait till it starts snowing. And for it to start snowing for Bitcoin, essentially, we need a clear break above 89k. We need to confirm that flip. We need to put in a higher high, blast through local resistance between 94 and 96k, put in that higher high, surpass the previous swings, and then lots of traders will look to come in on the flip side on the back of that bullish momentum. That's what gives us a nice rally over Christmas, and that's what gives us a bullish premise going into January on the back of that CPI data. So fingers crossed, but let's just check in with the key levels to watch this week. We've got local support now at 84.5k, formed by this previous swing low. And then we have major support below us, as you can see on this liquidity map, between 80 and 81k. 89k is still serving as local resistance, with major resistance now a little bit lower than it has been between 94 and 96k. We also, of course, have the secondary resistance of the 3-day 200 MA, the 4-hour 200 MA, and of course this overhead diagonal resistance here represented by this red line. But those are the areas to watch this week. That's it for now. I'm Paul with ArcisFX. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop us a comment. I'll be back tomorrow with an exclusive Christmas Eve members only live special. That's instead of my usual Thursday stream due to it falling on Christmas Day. So if you're not a member, please consider joining us, as it would be great to have you. And then I'll be back again for altcoin gems as usual on Friday to make sure you've got something to trade. And also, if you're not in our private group, you can check out the link in the description, as we'd love to have you. Have a great Christmas if you celebrate. Catch you in the next one.